Right, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for joining us today during our Ethics Week. I think I saw the spirit of USG: stewardship, prevention, integrity, responsibility, inspiration, and trust. I think those are the words I've been seeing in the emails that Megan has been sending around. And I think it's really timely for us as an institution to just reflect on some of these a bit, even within the industry that we operate. Because ethical leadership is crucial as AI transforms financial decision making. And you may wonder why I'm focusing on financial decision making. My first 6 years out of school, I worked in banking and finance. It was some very formative years for me. I enjoyed it. I was in that little area of Jamaica that where a lot of tourists visit, in Negril, and I was very young, and I had a very impressionable boss who cared and taught us some very good principles. But throughout the years, there was some political turmoil, etc. And in the mid-90s, there was also the financial crisis going on. And we were given an assurance, because at the time, the cash reserve ratio for banks, at the central bank, was 25%. And we were below the 25% threshold. So the government thought that they would take action. Now, there were other banks within the industry who were operating way below us, but no action was taken against them. But yet we were given that assurance that, hey, everything is fine. And we accepted it because we thought that this is an industry where your word is your bond, and you act with integrity. Whatever you say, we hold on to that word. But the next day, the government came in, the central bank came in, and they gave us, I distinctly remember receiving that letter. Effective immediately, the government is in charge of this bank. So I was a treasury officer, I had to change all the combinations, we counted all the cash, etc., etc. And it had a very deep impact on me, where integrity is concerned, where ethics is concerned. And then throughout my career after that, I found myself in positions where this is something that's really important, especially within the elements of business. I was working with the Royal Dutch Shell Petroleum Company, was a revenue manager, and we had to make some decisions. So I had a country manager and had a general manager, and then I was a revenue manager. And they called me into this meeting, hey, we need to make some decisions because we're going to be closing our books. We have some expenses that if we record them this year, it's going to hit us hard. Our bonus is not going to be looking good. And I'm like, well, but we should record it for this year. I was the junior in the room. But it taught me something, that not everything that you see is really as black and white as you think it should be. And over the years, I've always found myself in these positions where, there is some ethical decision that you have to make. And here we are now in this environment of AI where, as leaders, we think that, in my mind, leaders must align AI-driven strategies with integrity, transparency, and accountability. And I'm going to go through a few things that I think will resonate with us as we go through them. So we, as faculty and staff, I think, we share what I call a dual role, right? So we are stewards of this institution, while at the same time we are mentors to the next generation of professionals, right? We are preparing these students, these young ones, to go out into the world, right? But I think it's important that we understand that ethics is not an abstract concept. It is the practical application of our values in complex situations. And importantly, we find that once we have those values instilled within us, it will make it easier for us to really make decisions. Right? So the most complex situation facing finance, business, and even our own operations is the rapid integration of artificial intelligence. That's what I think, right? Now, for the next few years, we'll be doing this financial literacy strategic initiative for our students. So we no longer will be doing a QEP, but we saw Dr. Blake's email. We'll still be doing this financial literacy initiative. The goal is to equip our students with sound financial skills, how to budget, how to manage debt, and save for the future. The foundational goal is competence. Now, financial literacy, it's not really complete. It is really incomplete if it is just about the mechanics, because the ethical core of financial literacy is about responsibility. Responsible ethical decision making, about recognizing when a system, be it a loan officer or an algorithm, is treating you fairly. Right, so it brings us to the central thesis of what I'm presenting today, in that AI is transforming financial decision making, introducing new ethical challenges that require focused executive and pedagogical attention. So we must prepare our leaders, and I'm referring to our leaders, our future leaders, as our students. We must prepare our students not just to use AI, but to lead ethically through it. So while we shifted recently from the formal QEP, our commitment to student success has not really wavered, right? We are moving forward immediately with the Strategic Financial Literacy Initiative. It signals that financial wellness is a core permanent MGA competency, independent of any external accreditation timeline, right? So our aim is to graduate students who are not just career ready, but financially resilient and equipped to navigate the complex economic scape of their professional lives. Now, why the AI pivot? So while it will equip students with strong financial skills, in my mind, emphasizing responsibility beyond competence is important. So as AI transforms financial decision making, new global ethical challenges arise, demanding focus, executive, and pedagogical attention for responsible practice. So we'll spend years teaching students how to manage money. But we should also recognize that the systems that manage money are changing, and they are changing fast, right? Artificial intelligence, it's no longer a distant concept. It's embedded in the decisions that shape lives, loan approvals, credit scores, and investment advice. So it's transforming financial decision making from human-led judgment to machine-driven prediction. The systems are fast, data-rich, but they're also opaque, biased, and difficult to hold accountable. What used to be a conversation with a loan officer is now a silent verdict from an algorithm. So the ethical challenge is, who is responsible when an AI system denies a mortgage unfairly? How do we ensure transparency when the model can't explain itself? Bias in data can lead to discrimination, lack of explainability erodes trust, and without clear accountability, ethical violations go unresolved. So what we find now is that executives now must lead with ethical foresight and not just financial acumen. They must translate values like fairness and transparency into technical requirements for AI teams. Ethical leadership in the AI era means asking hard questions before deployment. Who benefits? Who is harmed? Can we justify this decision? So there is a pedagogical imperative for us. As educators and mentors, we must prepare students not just to use the financial tools, but to interrogate them. So while our strategic financial literacy will give students financial literacy, we must also give them algorithmic literacy. That is that ability to question, understand, and challenge AI-driven decisions. So while it's transforming financial decision-making, it demands this new kind of leadership, one that is ethically grounded, technically fluent, and pedagogically proactive. So these are the objectives for today, right? I want us to just examine the major risk associated with AI in the financial sector, just highlighting potential challenges and dilemmas as we understand the core ethical risk of AI. Right? So we acknowledge that it is revolutionizing financial services, but with that comes risk. We'll explore how the bias, opacity, and accountability challenges can lead to unethical outcomes, especially when algorithms make decisions about loans, credit scores, or investment advice. These risks, they aren't just technical, they're human. They affect real people, including our students. So, ethical leadership, it can't be taught through rules alone. In my mind, it may have to be coached. So we look at how coaching builds ethical muscle memory, helping future executives navigate ambiguity and make principled decisions. So the focus of a research that I'm currently working on is how coaching can prepare leaders to translate values into action in AI-driven environments, right? But also for us, how can us as faculty and staff integrate AI ethics into leadership, curriculum, and mentorship? We all have a role to play. Whether you teach finance, manage campus operations, or mentor student leaders, AI ethics, I think, belongs in our toolkit. So we look at some practical ways to embed ethical reflection into coursework, procurement decisions, and everyday conversation with students. Right? Now, let's begin by looking at how AI is actively reshaping financial services, not in theory, but in practice. So here are a few examples that highlight the ethical tensions that arise when algorithms take over decisions once made by humans. So, the algorithmic trading and high-frequency trading systems, they execute trade in milliseconds, right? Often exploiting microsecond advantages to generate profit. But it also raises an ethical concern around market fairness and stability. Are these systems really creating value, or just extracting at the expense of ordinary investor? I'm not sure how many of us will remember the 2010 flash crash. It's a prime example where the Dow Jones plunged nearly 1,000 points in just a matter of minutes. And that was due to algorithmic feedback loops, right? But critics argue that HFT firms act more like gamblers than investors, prioritizing speed over substance. Now, the ethical question is, does this system promote healthy markets or destabilize them for profit? And that's something that's a question that we'll continue to grapple with. Now, here's something else. The automated credit and loan scoring use opaque algorithms. So it impacts transparency and trust. Sometimes we really can't see what's behind that algorithm. So the models now determine who gets approved for credit, replacing human loan officers with opaque algorithms. I don't know if you can recall a time you could actually sit in front of a loan officer, make a presentation of your business plan, and you have a conversation about it. Now it's just the algorithm that does these things, right? So these systems often rely on historical data that may contain bias, leading to discriminatory outcomes for marginalized groups. For example, and I'm sure we'll recall this one, in 2019, Apple Card faced backlash when women received significantly lower credit limits than men with similar financial profiles, right? The ethical issue here is transparency. Now, if a student is denied a loan, can they understand why? Can they challenge it? Is the AI reflecting reality or automating injustice? Right? There is also this hyper-personalized financial advice. These robo-advisors, right? So robo-advisors like Betterment and Wealthfront, they offer tailored investment advice using AI. They blur the line between suggestion and fiduciary duty. So if a robo-advisor makes a poor recommendation, who is accountable? the algorithm or the firm. These platforms, they often lack transparency in how portfolios are constructed, and users may not understand the risks involved. Now, this is an ethical question for us. Can students or consumers make informed decisions when the advice is automated and opaque? How many times have you tried to dial a number, or you go online to do something and it's just some bots who are responding to you? Right? That's the age of where we are now. So these systems, they aren't just affecting Wall Street, they are shaping our everyday financial lives. So students may receive credit scores, loan approvals, and investment advice from AI systems they don't truly understand. As educators, we must prepare them not just to manage money, but to question the algorithms managing their money. Right? Now, here's a contrast of traditional finance workflows with AI-native finance workflows. So AI-native finance shifts the role of financial professionals from data handlers to ethical strategists. So this is traditional finance, and what we have to look at now is leaders must now not just oversee the numbers, but focus on compliance, reporting, and stakeholder management, have ethical oversight of algorithms, data governance, and AI accountability. I think that's where it is now, because that's where the input is. So there's this triad of core ethical risk in AI-driven finance. So now that we have seen how AI is used in financial services, let's just examine 3 most pressing ethical risks that every executive and educator must understand and address. Bias and discrimination. That's the fairness problem. First, bias and discrimination, they arise when historical data perpetuates systematic inequalities, prompting the question, does AI reflect reality or reinforce injustice? AI systems learn from historical data, but history isn't neutral. It reflects systemic inequalities. For example, if past loan approvals favored certain zip codes or demographics, the algorithm will learn that pattern and replicate it, even if the bias is illegal or unethical. Right? So this will have real consequences, and studies have shown that AI-driven credit scoring can disadvantage minority applicants even when their financial profiles are comparable. So is the AI really reflecting reality or reinforcing injustice? So I mentioned the Apple Card controversy earlier, right? So just a bit more on it. So when Apple debuted the minimalist look, completely no-fee model, creating frenzy and anticipation, millions sign up. Now this is the hilarious part of it. There was this dark side of the technological revolution that reared its ugly head, right? So Danish programmer David Heinemeier tweeted that after both he and his wife applied for the Apple Card with much of the same or shared financial information, he was astonished to receive a credit limit 20 times higher than his wife, despite his wife's higher credit score. Adding fuel to the fire, Apple's co-founder, Steve Wozniak, shared that the same thing happened to him and his wife. This is the Apple Card. This is Apple's co-founder, right? It's just really ironic, but that's a challenge that the AI shared, because it lacked transparency, making it difficult to challenge or even explain the disparity, right? Now, opacity, the explainability problem. It occurs with black box algorithms, challenging transparency and the right to explanation. So many AI models, especially deep learning systems, they operate as black boxes. They produce decisions, but can't explain how they arrive at them. It violates a fundamental ethical principle, the right to an explanation. Consumers deserve to know why they were denied a loan or offered a specific financial product. So opacity undermines trust, accountability, and regulatory oversight. If we can't explain the decision, can we really ethically defend it? Some fintech lenders use proprietary algorithms to assess risk, but offer no clear rationale for denials. And this leaves consumers without recourse and regulators without visibility. Third, accountability issues emerge when determining responsibility for unethical or illegal AI decisions. So when the AI system makes an unethical or illegal decision, who is really responsible? Is it the data scientist who built the model, the executive who approved its deployment, or the oversight board that failed to intervene? So this is the liability shift, right? So in traditional systems, responsibility is clear. In AI systems, it's diffuse, and that, in my mind, is dangerous. So who really owns the outcome when the algorithm fails? A real-life example is Wells Fargo algorithmic discrimination case, where in 2022, they faced scrutiny for allegedly using algorithms that led to discriminatory mortgage practices. The question of accountability became central to the investigation. So what's the executive's new mandate in this AI era? What does it really mean to lead ethically in a financial world? The leadership profile for the AI era is going to be fundamentally different. It's no longer enough to be financially savvy or legally compliant. Ethical fluency is now a strategic imperative in my mind. Executives now will have to move beyond profit and compliance to master technical fluency and ethical foresight in the AI era. They serve as translators, converting ethical principles into actionable requirements for each teams, right? So they act as risk managers, understanding that ethical missteps can lead to significant financial and reputational consequence. Can they really stand on a decision that the AI made an error? So historically, executives have been measured by three pillars: profit maximization, regulatory compliance, and stakeholder management. Now, I think they're no longer sufficient in a world where algorithms make decisions that affect lives. They have to integrate that technical influence with ethical foresight. They must understand how AI systems work, how they can go wrong. So it isn't just about knowing the tech, it's about knowing how to lead through it. They must also be translators, converting abstract ethical principles like fairness and transparency into concrete technical requirements. For example, fairness must become a quantifiable metric in the code. That means asking, how do we measure bias? How do we audit outcomes? If executives can't speak both the ethical and technical languages, they can't lead AI teams responsibly. I think we can recall Facebook's algorithmic bias controversy, where whistleblower Frances Haugen revealed that Facebook's leadership repeatedly prioritized engagement and profit over safety, failing to address algorithmic harms like misinformation and discrimination. But the executive is also a risk manager, because the ethical risks are no longer separate from financial risks. In my mind, the ethical risks are now the financial risks. A biased algorithm can lead to lawsuits, fines, and the collapse of consumer trust. So executives must proactively identify ethical vulnerabilities in AI systems, just as they would with cybersecurity and fraud. In the AI era, ethical leadership isn't just a soft skill anymore. In my mind, it's a strategic necessity. So executives must lead with integrity, fluency, and courage. This section I'm going to be going through kind of connects directly to my current research, developing the executive manager for the AI environment through coaching. Why coaching? Because I think we cannot simply train leaders out of this problem. Ethical leadership in AI requires more than compliance. It requires judgment, reflection, and courage. So training teaches rules, provides checklists, protocols, and compliance standards. Coaching, on the other hand, develops ethical muscle memory. It prepares leaders to navigate novel, ambiguous dilemmas where no checklist applies. In the AI era, executives will face decisions that are technically sound but ethically questionable. And I think that coaching helps them pause, reflect, and choose wisely. So the frameworks for the AI ethics coaching, we look at classic philosophical frameworks to guide ethical reflection. They aren't abstract. They are practical tools for decision making. So the deontological check will look at the duty or rules. Does the AI system follow universal moral rules? Is there a rule coded into the system that prevents discrimination based on race, gender, or other protected classes? This check ensures that the system respects fundamental rights regardless of outcomes. The consequentialist check will look at the outcomes. What are the outcomes of deploying this AI? Will this lending algorithm, while profitable, increase wealth concentration or displace human advisors? This check forces leaders to consider the ripple effects on society, stakeholders, and long-term equity. And finally, the Verity ethics check will look at character or integrity. Does deploying this AI reflect the kind of organization we want to be? Are we known for being trustworthy, fair, and customer-centered? If not, we don't deploy. This check is about reputation, integrity, and alignment with core values. Right? If we take a look at the medical industry, we'll see why ethics must lead. So to fully grasp the ethical stakes of AI in finance, it's really important that we look at an industry where you have no choice but to let ethics lead. So the medical industry faces ethical challenges with AI, such as diagnostic bias and patient data privacy, underscoring the serious impact of algorithmic decisions. These concerns parallel issues in finance, I think, where algorithms can similarly affect lives. Executives in both industries must prioritize human well-being over maximizing algorithmic efficiency. But why does it really matter? In healthcare, AI is used to diagnose diseases, recommend treatments, and predict patient outcomes. But these systems are vulnerable to the same ethical risks we see in finance: bias, opacity, and accountability. Studies have shown that AI models trained on light-skinned patients perform poorly on darker skin tones, leading to misdiagnoses and delayed treatment for people of color. In 2021, Google and Ascension faced scrutiny over Project Nightingale, where patient data was shared without clear consent, raising serious ethical and legal concerns. These examples highlight how demographic bias and data misuse can have life-altering consequences. So whether the decision is financial, like a life-changing mortgage, or medical, like a life-altering diagnosis, the ethical stakes are the same. So executives must prioritize human well-being and fundamental rights over pure algorithmic efficiency and profit. So this is the heart of ethical leadership in the AI era, putting people before performance metrics. If we couldn't accept opaque, biased, or irresponsible AI in medicine, we shouldn't really accept it in finance either. The stakes may differ, but the ethical imperative is the same. What does that mean for us? This is where the rubber meets the road, right? As members of this institution, I think we are going to be ethical coaches, or we should be ethical coaches. Think about it. We demand academic integrity in our courses, in our assignments, right? So we serve as ethical coaches for students, shaping their understanding of responsible use of AI. So embedding AI ethics in the curriculum is essential. Integrate case studies on algorithmic bias and the black box problem in business and finance courses. That's a good start. Teach students not just to model, but to ethically audit and evaluate AI impacts. So our students are entering a world where AI systems will shape their financial futures, but we must prepare them not just to use these systems, but to question them. We must go further by integrating case studies on algorithmic bias and black box problem, as these case studies help students understand how models can go wrong and how to ethically audit them. In a statistics module, we can include a project where students audit a simulated credit scoring model for bias. In corporate governance, we can discuss the ethical responsibilities of executives deploying AI tools. So we have to move beyond how to model and teach students to ethically audit a model. In the humanities, for example, we have the opportunity and the responsibility to design interdisciplinary assignments that explore how AI systems shape society, right? This includes analyzing the impact of big data and algorithmic decision-making on democratic institutions, civil rights, and social equity. Compulsory recidivism algorithm is used in US courts to predict the likelihood of reoffending. This system was found to disproportionately label black defendants as high risk, raising serious questions about due process and algorithmic justice. You'll remember the Cambridge Analytica scandal. The unauthorized harvesting of Facebook data to influence elections revealed how AI and big data can undermine democratic processes and voter autonomy. So these topics, I don't think, they are not only timely, they are transformative. Just imagine a philosophy class debating the ethics of predictive policing, or a literature course analyzing dystopian narratives through the lens of real-world surveillance capitalism. Yeah? So it's the high-impact learning that connects theory to lived experience. So we can assign students to trace the life cycle of an AI system, from data collection to deployment, and evaluate its societal impact using ethical frameworks like Rawlsian justice, feminist ethics, or post-colonial critique. So, as I emphasize, we play a crucial role as ethical coaches. So the general education is where we reach every student, regardless of major. And it's our chance to build ethical awareness into the core of their college experience. So our strategic financial literacy initiative, it will give us a strong foundation, I think. We may also need to expand that foundation to include algorithmic literacy, right? So we must teach them that these scores, like the credit scores, or much of their online financial advice are determined by algorithms. Right? We remember the Credit Karma lawsuit 2022, the TikTok financial advice, where many students receive investment tips from influencers whose content is shaped by engagement algorithms, leading to risky decisions. We have to, like in college, I find that us as educators are the second set of parents for these students. A lot of them are away from home, and they actually look up to us for guidance for that. So we're going to have to teach students to question the system, help them to understand that digital systems are not infallible. So if an algorithm denies them a loan, recommends a financial product, or ranks their credit worthiness, they have the right to ask why, based on what data, is this fair? This is the heart, I think, of algorithmic transparency. So in a first-year seminar or digital literacy course, we could include a module where students audit their own digital footprint and reflect on how algorithms shape their financial identity. We can use our strategic financial literacy framework to introduce ethical questions. Who controls the data? Who benefits from the advice? Right? When we embed AI ethics into general education, we prepare every student, not just future executives, to be informed, empowered, and ethically aware consumers in a digital economy. How about for campus operations? How do we include ethics in that? Because it really doesn't just stop in the classroom. It extends into every operational division, every operational decision we make, from the tools we purchase to the guidance we offer our student employees. As staff and administrators, we are actually stewards of this institutional integrity and mentors for the next generation of ethical professionals. So staff and leadership should scrutinize AI tools during procurement, ensuring transparency and fairness by questioning vendors about bias prevention and model explainability. In mentorship, guide student employees to critically assess the fairness and sources of AI-driven advice. Core principle, decisions must be explainable to be ethically defensive. How do we implement or make this practical? So before purchasing any AI-driven tool for campus, whether for student retention modeling, enrollment prediction, or HR functions, we must ask the hard ethical questions. These systems may promise efficiency and insight, but they also carry risks, bias, opacity, and misuse of sensitive data. Now, there are some key questions that we also have to ask of our vendors. How do you prevent bias in your model? Can you explain how your algorithm reaches its decisions? What data do you collect, and how is it protected? Right? So include an ethics checklist in your procurement process. Require vendors to disclose bias mitigation strategies and model explainability before approval. So to close today's session, I just want to share 2 key resources that reflect our institution's commitment to ethical leadership in the AI era. One is from my own research, and one from our evolving curriculum. So, my research spotlight is a subject that forms the core of my research topic is developing the executive manager for the AI environment through coaching. So what this work does, it will explore how coaching, not just training, can prepare leaders to navigate ethical ambiguity, translate values into technical requirements, and lead responsibly in AI-driven industries. So I look forward to sharing the paper with you when it's complete, and I welcome any interest in applying those insights across our programs. And 2, curriculum innovation. We're also developing a new graduate-level course in the School of Business, Ethics in Leadership, which will be part of our Masters in Business Professional Leadership degree program here. So the course will guide students through the conceptual foundations of leadership while examining real-world ethical failures, best practices, and frameworks for responsible decision-making. Most importantly, it will give students the opportunity to examine their own ethical compass so they can develop and embrace the principles that undergird ethical leadership. So whether through coaching, curriculum, or conversation, our goal is the same: to empower ethical leaders who can navigate complexity with clarity, courage, and compassion. So just summarizing for today, artificial intelligence, it's reshaping how financial decisions are made, from loan approvals to investment advice. But then this transformation introduces a new ethical terrain, making ethical leadership not optional, but non-negotiable. There is the triad of ethical risk. The primary risk executives and consumers face are bias, opacity, and accountability. So recall that bias is when historical data reinforces injustice, opacity when decisions can't be explained, accountability when no one owns the outcome. I think these risks affect lives, livelihoods, and trust, and they demand ethical foresight. Faculty and staff as ethical coaches, we are ethical coaches for our students. Whether we teach finance, ethics, or manage campus operations, we must help students question the systems that shape their futures. We must prepare them to lead with courage, question with clarity, and act with integrity. And now my final thought. Our strategic financial literacy initiative, it will prepare our students to manage money. But our ethical responsibility in this area is to teach them how to manage the algorithms that manage the money. This is the new financial literacy. This is our moment to expand the definition of financial literacy from budgeting and saving to algorithmic awareness and ethical reflection. So let's equip our students not just to succeed, but to lead responsibly in a digital economy. That's what I have to present to you today. I welcome your questions, thoughts, and any ideas on how we can collaborate just to make our campus a leader in ethical AI literacy. Thank you.